going to talk about Web3. We're going to talk about how this potentially might change the music industry. But before we can talk about Web3, we should also maybe take a look back and see where the music industry came from. And then we can look at where the music industry might go to. So, Joel, would you like to start us off?
So let's go a bit earlier than or before 2000s, how artists made money and also grew their fan base, their community. So before it was vinyls, later on CDs, radio, and of course live events. Then fast forward, later the streaming came, was a huge thing, especially for users. They had a huge amount of music available in one app from all around the world. And also for artists, meant a new revenue, income stream, and but now it's also, sorry. But nowadays, it's also became a huge problem, mainly because of monopolies. For example, Spotify increased the subscription fees for users, decreased the payment for artists, especially for small artists. They basically get nothing, or if you're really small, you don't get paid anything at all. So. And also the management part for an artist is getting bigger and bigger, or more and more. You have an app for uploading the music, you have an app for selling tickets, you have an app to interact with your users, with your fan base, or you have a label, but that also costs money, and if an artist doesn't make a lot, that's difficult. And now, there's a new technology emerging called Web3, blockchain, and a lot of people say this is the thing to kind of save the music industry. But first, what is Web3?
Exactly, and that's the question I'm trying to answer right now. So if we go to the next slide, sorry, we have some technical issues. So if we go to the next slide, I talked a lot about Web3 already, so I said this word a lot already. And this kind of happens to me a lot when I go back home. And people always ask me, oh, Andrea, you're in Berlin, what are you actually doing? And I tell them, well, I'm building a social Web3-based music streaming service. And the reaction is always the same. It's always, oh, that's so cool. And then they are like, so what's Web3? So how I explain it very simply is, basically Web 1 was read. So it means the internet. So you can have a website, you can go to the website, you can read the website. That's Web 1. Web 2, now we put read and write. So we put social media into the mix. So now we can interact with each other, we can talk to each other, we can comment, we can like, we can share, we can all do these great things. And now with Web 3, we are adding another element to the mix. So we're adding read, write, and own. And own is kind of the most complex of these elements. Because own is basically linked to a new kind of technology, so it's linked to the blockchain. Most of you probably heard about crypto. I don't know who actually owns crypto in this room. Okay, great. Who of you owns digital assets in the sense of NFTs and tokens? Okay, not so many anymore. And who owns digital assets like NFTs and tokens in the music space? One person, yes! Love this guy. Okay, great. Favorite person in the room. No. So, before I talk about Web3 and music, let's quickly take a look back at why I actually put the word own on there. So, what does own mean? What does blockchain actually mean? And the easiest way actually is to explain this with crypto. So, for example, if I have 10 euros and I want to send it to Joël, my bank has to make sure that these 10 euros leave my bank account and they kind of verify the transaction and then put it over in Joel's bank account. And the blockchain does exactly the same, almost. So it also verifies this transaction. So if I again send 10 euros, or rather 10 bitcoins, although that might be a little bit too much. let's say 0.001 bitcoins I send over to Joël because I like him a lot. And then I will need the blockchain which verifies this. So what does that mean? As it says, blockchain. So it is a block which is part of a chain, which kind of verifies this transaction because you can't change the transaction after it has been written on the blockchain. I do want to tell you about the technical part, but I'm also scared that I'm going to lose some people here. So let's try to keep it simple as possible. What does it mean? So basically, if you add a block to the blockchain, there's kind of a mathematical procedure which has to be calculated to be able to add this block to the chain. And as soon as it's in, the next block is then reliable on the first block, and so on and so forth. So if I want to change one block, I would have to change all the blocks afterwards as well. And because the blockchain is decentralized, meaning stored in very many places and always updating each other and kind of verifying that each blockchain is the same blockchain, it's kind of difficult to even try to change anything, because even if you manage to change one blockchain, all the other kind of copies of that blockchain will basically just overwrite your blockchain again. So it's almost impossible. But this makes it a very safe system to verify transactions. And that's why we use it for crypto, for example. But what most people don't know, you can also use it for other assets. And these are the assets that interest me. I'm not that big into crypto, I have to admit. I do have crypto, but I'm not that into it. I'm more into the tokens and the digital assets. Because that means you can now basically verify anything. It's kind of like a notary. So in theory, you could also buy a house with this without having to go to the notary, because this transaction is verified on the blockchain and you can't change it anymore. So now let's talk about music again. Coming back to the music part of the whole thing. As an example, if I'm now an artist, I have a song, and Joël wants to do a techno remix of my song. He, in the Web2 space, he would have to write me an email and be like, I want to use your song. And then we have to kind of text with each other, we have to have a contract, I have to send him the contract, he has to sign this contract, and then he will send this contract over to me again, and then I will get the money from him, and then I send him my music, and it's just loads of transactions going on. But on the other hand, if we, for example, if I put my music on the blockchain, now I can put a contract on the blockchain as well. So I can say, hey, if somebody wants to use my song, you have to pay this and this much, and then you're allowed to use my song. So now Joël can basically just pay me via the blockchain and get all the rights for the song verified on the blockchain instantly and use my music instantly. And also, after he did the remix and loads it back on the blockchain, for example, if the contract says I get 10% now of everything this song makes, I will automatically get these 10% all the time. So, but now let's go to actually streaming, because that's kind of the space we're also in. I have here a very nice graph on the side, which I'm very proud of. No. What this shows, again, is another use case of the Web3, and this, in this case, with streaming. So right now in Web2, what's happening? You have an if you're an artist or a songwriter, you maybe have a label, so you give your song to the label then gives it to a distributor, which most people actually don't know. The distributor then puts it on the streaming service then plays it out to the consumer, and the consumer then pays the streaming service a platform fee. And of this platform fee, which they most of the time, in the case of Spotify, put in one big pot, they then give you kind of a fraction of like 0.003 cent per stream normally. Only if you're a big artist, you might get more, but it's kind of difficult. And they will then pay this out to the distributor again to the label, and the label again to the artist. Okay, so in Web3, this is a little bit easier. So in Web3, as an artist or a songwriter, you can directly upload your music to the streaming service with all the rights holder of your song as well. So they're also getting the money they kind of own, like percentage-wise. Then the streaming service will play this out to the consumer, and the consumer normally pays a small fee to the streaming service for using the service, but the whole rest of the money goes directly to the artist. And also in the first graph, you see, this is quite a long chain, and it can take up to 3 months until you get your money as an artist. If you use Web3, you can either get it instantly, or depending on what protocol or what blockchain you're running your music, you can get it, for example, at the end of the month. Yes, so this is kind of the basic, I would say, construct of Web3 and music, but now maybe let's also look at some examples.
So there's already some companies that implement Web3 in the music industry. So namely Tracks, which is a platform which enables artists to tokenize their music. The artist can decide how many tokens per track he wants to create and also for which price he wants to sell them. But you only can buy those tracks then in cryptocurrency, so you need to have like some knowledge with, for example, you need to create a wallet, you need to buy cryptocurrencies, you need to know how it works. So you need some pre-knowledge to actually use this platform. ODYS, on the other hand, is a music streaming service, which which also has its own cryptocurrency and is actually owned by their users. So they decide what's going to happen next on the platform and what they want to implement on the platform. Also, they have different features for artists to connect more to their fan base, for example, group chats or direct donations. Similar is ODYS, actually, also a music streaming platform, also has similar features like ODYS, but it's not governed by their users. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we can have the next slide as well. I think it's also, when we talk about Web3 and music, it's also important to talk about the challenges, because right now all we have been doing is trying to sell you Web3, which we still are trying to do. But we also want to be honest, and there are challenges facing this kind of new technology. First of all, what we're doing right now, it's education and user adaptation. So as I said, especially if you go back home and tell your family about Web3, they do not know what it is. And so it is important to kind of educate people on Web3 and what it is, because it's not very, let's say, approachable at first. After you've done that, the next challenge you're going to face is actually onboarding with Web3 services. Because most Web3 services do require a wallet or cryptocurrency. This means if you've never ever heard about Web3, and then suddenly you're trying to create a wallet, and then suddenly you're getting 20 words, which you then have to hide in a secret place, which nobody should be able to find. That's kind of something that scares some people, which I can completely understand. So yeah, that's one of the challenges. Then again, if you're a streaming service, getting major artists to actually come to your service is difficult, first of all, because of the labels as well, because most labels do think that they're kind of losing power over the artists, or that the artists will not use the label anymore, which might be a possibility, but we don't know that yet, officially. So yeah, and other than that, they have, of course, contracts sometimes with Spotify, which you're not allowed to, for example, go to a different streaming service. Then, something that's actually more one of our problems, which we would love to tell you a lot about, are regulatory uncertainties. So if you're building a startup in this space, it can be difficult and challenging sometimes. As an example, the kind of foundation of the token economic system in the EU was just written a year ago. And as you can tell, probably that means it's always still kind of changing. There's new stuff coming on, and even if you're building something right now, maybe in a month's time they're gonna make a small change and you have to make a huge change to your product in the end. Then scalability and cost. This is actually related to the blockchain itself, because running a blockchain and putting something on a blockchain means that you have to pay the blockchain, which is called gas fees. And the more transaction you have on your blockchain, the more gas fees you have to pay. So beware, also as an independent artist, if you put something on a blockchain, beware which blockchain you actually choose, because the prices do vary from blockchain to blockchain. And also it's an ecological problem sometimes, because different blockchains use different systems to prove their work, so to do this kind of verification. And depending on their system, they use more power to calculate these numbers. And therefore, it can be sometimes not very environmental friendly, if you're looking out for that. Then, of course, there's so far no successful dominant Web3 platform, which means, to be honest, there's not really a proof of concept yet. So there are a few Web3 platforms which are quite popular already, and they're kind of working, but as a user, you might be like uncertain if you should really use this, because you don't know if this will work, if this platform in particular will maybe even stay online, if you want to invest your time and energy and money into this. But, well, you have to believe in it, I would say. Last but not least, of course, this goes hand in hand, it's artist hesitation and risk aversion. So as an artist especially, it is hard, and we do understand that it can be kind of a risk to say, I want to now invest my energy and my time into this platform, because I do believe that this one day can change the music industry. And I would really tell you to actually visit a Web3 event, because it's super interesting, because the Web3 space is it's a great community, because everybody in there does believe that this will change something, and this is kind of the next revolution of the web. And so far, everybody's kind of pulling together on one string, because it is something we believe in. And I think this is something that's very important for me to tell you as well. You have to believe in it so far, because there's not a proof of concept yet. Talking about this, let's talk about our platform and what we're trying to build here, and why you should believe in us, maybe.
So, as we mentioned at the beginning, we have our own startup in the Web3 called ODYS. And what we essentially want to do is an ecosystem for music, where for artists and users. Our concept is stream, connect, own. So artists can upload their music on our platform and earn up to 10 times more than any conventional streaming service out there right now. We do that in a way we don't take the subscription money and put it in a pool and then distribute it to all the artists per stream. With blockchain, we can do kind of direct payment from the user to the artist. So let's say the subscription fee is 10 euros per month, and in 1 month you listen to 80% to one artist. So directly with smart contracts, directly with 80% of the subscription fee goes directly to the artist. So especially for smaller artists, this is a way better way to actually earn money. Then connect. On our platform, we enable artists to interact with our users, or with their users, with their fan base, on different levels. So we have a social feed where artists can stream, can post like news, where they're gonna have a concert next. What kind of tracks, if they have new tracks, they can post it on there so they can update their fan base. Also, we are going to implement group chats. So if you have any exclusive content, you can post it there to your close or super fans. Or if you have maybe a rave, a bit like underground, you can post it there, you can leak the location over there. Then own, we implement a marketplace for artists where they virtually can sell anything, from merch to royalties to concert tickets to right of usage of their tracks. So whatever the artists can and want sell, they can tokenize it and put in our marketplace, and users can buy it. And all of that we do in a Web2 interface. So what that means is you don't need to have any prior knowledge on crypto wallets, cryptocurrency, or what the blockchain is. We create the wallet for you. You don't have to pay with cryptocurrency. You can pay normally with fiat currency, so with euros, US dollar, what you want. But if you have this knowledge, if you want to do that, you can also connect your wallet. You can pay with cryptocurrency. So yeah, that's essentially our vision of ODYS. Yeah.
Yes. And maybe we can go also to the next slide and also the last slide for today. We are releasing our platform in 2 months. So we're releasing the beta version in 2 months. Meaning, please, yes, I love the people who are taking out their phone. Please scan the QR code. Go to our website and sign up for early access. This means that in 2 months, when we're releasing the beta, you'll be the first to be informed, and you can kind of sign up and test out the beta version. The beta version will be a little bit smaller than kind of the full version, of course. But as I said, if you do believe in Web3, and if you do believe in this vision, please support us and reach out to us. Yes. Are there any questions? Oh, we need a microphone. Sorry.
Hi, sorry. So as a newcomer, if I'm going to sign up to your website, how am I going to be meeting my audience? That was the first question that came to my head, because like normally labels has this opportunity to like meet your audience, come to the target point and everything. How do you guys do that?
So first thing first, of course, we have to build our community up on the platform itself. We're going to do this while working together with different events. That's also why we're focusing on electronic music while we're talking here. Because the first events that we're going to work with, of course, are electronic music events. You can buy tickets on our platform. We're working together with people who are doing kind of raves, and because you are not allowed to officially sell tickets to raves, but you are allowed to sell access to group chats to raves, you can kind of sell an access to a rave legally on our platform so far, as long as the regulation is still intact. Yes, and this is basically how, so if you are an electronic music artist, for example, doing a rave, this is where the community could potentially be, and where you can also bring your community and build it up.
Thank you so much.
We're also planning to do our own raves and put it on our platform. So
I'll do one.
Questions over there?
Hello, great talk, by the way. I just have a question, which is kind of on the side of this. Just at what point you are in your company and startup? Are you looking for investors privately, or are you going to look for VC money or anything in that realm, or are you set money-wise, or is this completely bootstrapped?
I mean, if you want to give us a few millions, we're very open to that. Send it on over. No, actually, we are actually looking for investors right now. But normally, if you want to look for investors, you first have to have a proof of concept. That means we do have to launch our beta version. That's why it's very important for you guys to sign up. Because we kind of have to have this proof that people are interested in this idea, even if the idea doesn't work, or the beta version doesn't work that well, let's put it like that. It's all about kind of proving that people are interested in that. Then you can get investors which are interested in your product, and then you can actually build something great.
But yeah, we're until now we bootstrapped everything, and launching now our product, and we're going from there. Then see how much interest we can invoke from the people.
Okay, just second part of this question. If I sign up, what is the price I have to pay in the beginning?
Nothing.
Amazing, thank you.
I have a question myself. When it comes to creating your own events, and when it comes to promoting your events through your app, how would you consider, for example, Gemma or all those royalty-based streaming platforms? Would you have to have them on the same like Web3 platform, or would that be carried out separately, or would that be carried out outside of your program?
You mean in the sense of like paying the Gemma for your event?
Yeah, so like let's say, would you, since you're getting a fee from the ticket and you're getting a revenue from the ticket that goes straight to the artist, then the whole Gemma situation comes outside of that. How would you consider that as a factor?
So basically in the Web3 space, it's very autonomous. So that means if you're creating a token, you're also, how do you say this, viable? No, not viable. Liable, yes, thank you. Liable for what you're creating. So when it comes to who should get paid and where the money should go to, you have the liability to put this on, like in the white paper of your token. So then the money can directly get distributed to this address.
So I wanted to ask is like, since you guys are still in the beta version of this, are there limitations on the region, or is it like anyone who scans it, anyone who wants to use the service can just go ahead and use it? For example, in India, cryptocurrency is like a different kind of, term. Like it is really difficult to kind of go into it. But how do you plan on tackling that, like in regions where cryptocurrency isn't taken seriously, because Web3 is based on that, right?
So that's why we have, you don't need cryptocurrency on the platform. You can pay with fiat currency. So whatever currency you want to pay in, you can pay in that currency.
But at this time, like at this time, like you're just open to all the regions, so you're like globally they're accessible, right?
Yes, technically, yeah. Like if you log in there and you create for example, a ticket or a ticket token for an event in India, for example, then you can do that. You just everything work, yeah.
You have to imagine, like if you are creating a wallet, for example, the wallet is anonymous, right? That's the whole point of Web3 and blockchain as well. Therefore, it doesn't matter who you are or where you are to do that. Of course, if you're doing an event in India or in Europe, you are, as I said, liable for the own rules of your country and what you're creating. So you can't just do illegal stuff on the platform. Otherwise, like that doesn't work that way. But yeah, in the sense of crypto, as you already said, you do not need crypto to use our platform because we have a Web2 interface and we are the one kind of changing the crypto back in the background.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Yeah.
So first of all, I think this idea can be awesome. As an investor, most of the time, I'm trying to increase my investment. So I would be interested in your plans for monetization, like in your direction as a platform, also to create a ROI for investors. Do you have already plans in this direction? Like, do you use gas fees or?
You mean in the sense of like, how are we making money?
Yes.
Okay, that's the big question. So we're not making money with streaming because we're paying out the streamings and we are taking a fee for the streaming, which I think is going to be like around 50 cents just to keep the streaming running. How we as a platform make money is via the tokens because we are kind of the marketplace, and therefore if you're doing a transaction on our marketplace, we will take a fee for each transaction, which is going to be around 2 to 5% depending on what you're actually selling. And that's kind of how we're making money. And so you have to imagine if you're doing an event on the platform and you sell 1,000 tickets, we kind of take between 2 to 5% of that, which is still less than Eventbrite, just letting you know.
Okay, so it's all about volume.
It's all about volume, but also this, as I said, this is in the Web3 space, and the Web3 space is all about kind of this giving ownership back to the people. And therefore, any investor who's interested in Web3 knows that Web3 is thought for as more social, actually, than Web2 platforms.
Okay, awesome, thanks.
Any more questions? That's it. Then thank you very much.
Thank you very much.